Okay guys, bear with me because I'm outside and it's kind of windy today, so hopefully you guys can hear my voice clearly. So I'm going to give you guys my testimony about what it was like to get off this Suboxone. It all started when, I've wanted to get off this stuff for a while. I just never had the guts to do it. I was basically all talk, but there was a few attempts where I tried. I started to do this in 2020, but I kept failing because I just didn't want to put in the work, but I was basically backed into a corner, and I basically just made a decision to go into a rehab. And before this, I decided to come to Austin, Texas. I'm from Chicago, and this is also something I wanted to do for quite a while. I just never had the guts to do it. I just felt this intuitive feeling that I had to be in Austin, Texas. I know that sounds weird, but anyway. So I finally got the guts to get on a bus. One of my friends that she used to be my boss at a gas station I worked at, and I asked her, I was like, do you think this is crazy that I want to go to Austin, Texas? And she said no. She ended up offering to buy me a bus ticket, but she ended up giving me she cashed at me $450, which my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe she gave me that much money. But I also had one last paycheck from my job, so I had the money to do it. So I got on a Greyhound, and there was a few layovers, but the whole bus ride was excellent. I had money, I was eating good, I was smoking weed and all that. I was just having a good old time. I really was. And once I got to Austin, I couldn't believe it. It was like surreal. I couldn't believe that I had the balls to do that, but I did. But before I got on the bus, I booked a suite, and the suite was only $30 a night, but you had to book it for at least a week. I booked it for 45 days, and it was as nice as the Hilton. When the Uber first pulled up to it, I didn't believe this was the place. I thought it was gonna be like some rundown motel, but it was the place. I had a kitchen and everything. But long story short, I couldn't pay my rent anymore, and I was forced out. I had to be homeless for a little bit. I was carrying all my stuff, and in Austin, it's extremely hot in the winter. I got here June 23rd, and it's just extremely hot. And I was on the streets for about 2 weeks before I checked myself into a state-funded rehab. And I think I stayed 11 days the first time. They moved me out of detox into residential, and I was still detoxing, obviously. And I left, and I was only taking kratom when I left, because it's easier to get off of kratom, especially when you take it and for like a week or two or whatever, it fills in that gap from the withdrawal. So, and weird enough too, I actually found a bottle of Subutex. Somebody dropped a whole bottle of Subutex, and I couldn't just throw it away, so I just kept it. But I wasn't using it though. But I put it in my bag, and when you check, the second time that I went there, I had it in my bag, right? And they put your stuff in this like shed outside, and just when I was there the second time, after like, I don't know, a week or something of being on the streets after I left the first time, I checked myself back in there, right? And so yeah, they put my stuff in the shed, and I just knew in the back of my mind that I had that Subutex, which was not a good thing. So I lasted about, I'd say 20 days or something like that. I had like a week left to go, but I had access to that bag. There was this one staff member that, easy to manipulate. And I saw that he was letting other people go inside there, like when we were outside for rec. And I was just pacing back and forth, like knowing that if I did this, I was gonna really fuck things up. But, I was like, hey, can I go in my bag and see if there's any socks? So I did, and it was easy. I just stuck my hand in the bag, grabbed it, put it in my, jock or whatever. And I was snorting it in the bathroom for about a week. And people caught on eventually, because you get pretty high from Suboxone when you don't really have a tolerance anymore. The pinpoint pupils and all that stuff, and being in a good mood out of nowhere, and then all these mood swings. But yeah, so they kicked me out And you know, I always say to people, they kicked me out / I left because I was super embarrassed. When they confronted me about this, I denied it at first, but then I admitted it, you know, and I was really embarrassed because I really liked the staff there, and yeah, I was really embarrassed. So anyway, I left, and I was gone for I think 11 days or something. And I found out that I still have VA benefits. For some reason, I thought I didn't have them anymore because I was in the Army. But I got an honorable discharge, so I got VA benefits for life. But they advocated for me. They weren't going to let me in for the third time. They didn't want to because they just thought I was trouble, and I don't blame them. But yeah, the VA advocated for me, and they got me in. And now I get to stay as long as I want. I pushed through that withdrawal, but I could stay as long as I want. I think up to like 5 months or something. But since I completed the 30 days of residential, they allow me to go out every single day to just enjoy myself, or I could look for work. I'm gonna look for work eventually, but I've been enjoying myself lately. So it's just been such a blessing to be able to leave that place. I get to leave at 8 in the morning, and I have to come back by 5 o'clock. All I got to do is do 7 hours worth of class a week, and that's it. But anyway, let's get to the withdrawal. The withdrawal was really brutal. When I got there the third time, the nurse practitioner is a very reasonable man, you know. He gave me a lot of comfort meds. He gave me Librium, gabapentin, clonidine, and plus I came in there with my own script of gabapentin and Seroquel, and I started to take Wellbutrin because Wellbutrin is an antidepressant that kicks in pretty much right away, and it helps you out through the whole pause, you know. So yeah, I was taking those during detox, and you know, the Seroquel and gabapentin was definitely helping a lot. The gabapentin helps with the restless legs and the general restlessness, and the Seroquel mixed with that, it really helps you sleep. But if you get woken up, you can't fall back asleep, you know. This is only when you're in withdrawal. So I would say like after 6 weeks is when I started to feel better, where I started to just notice, like, just out of nowhere, like, you know, like, I don't really feel like I'm in withdrawal anymore, you know? And it was a really great, like, revelation all of a sudden, because that whole 6 weeks, I was miserable. You know, after, like, I think 6 days of detox, they put me back they put me into residential, and I was obviously still withdrawing. But since the VA advocated for me, you know, that was a big deal that they let me in there, you know. They actually had a talk with me before they admitted me in, like, let me know that if I pull this shit again, like, I'm never going to be able to come back. And the nurse practitioner also told me that if I leave against medical advice, that they would never let me back in there again. So that was just a little bit more motivation to push through it, you know. I knew that it was time, you know. There is no more denying it. I had to get off of this shit. You know, I've been talking about it for so long, and yeah, it was time. It was time. And when I first got there, I handed them all that Suboxone, and I told them to destroy it, you know. That was the first thing I did when I walked in there. I handed it to them, and I told them to destroy it. And I think they liked that, you know. They commended me for it. But anyway, when I first walked in there, I was a mess, you know. And I wasn't taking the Suboxone again. When I got kicked out the second time, I was just taking Kratom, and yeah, and I was homeless and stuff. But yeah, when I got back there, it was a blessing. The nursing staff, they really have a lot of compassion. They give you the right meds. They don't make you suffer, you know. Of course you're still suffering, but those, you know, being able to take Librium for a week was a blessing. I was just basically sleeping the whole time. And it's possible to sleep when you're in withdrawal. You just need the right meds, the right combination of meds. So yeah, I was flopping around like a fish, I would say, maybe for the first 3 weeks. It's just hot, cold, sweat. Well, not really, because the clonidine kind of takes away the sweating, but you're still hot and cold and just restless and just irritable. And I was acting like an asshole. When I first got there, I was a real piece of shit. I was mad. I was angry. I realized just what my life had become, and it was just miserable. And on top of that, like, just going through the withdrawal was miserable. I couldn't sit still. I had to have a blanket on me during group. But one thing that I'm proud of myself for is I showed up to every single group I showed up to, even though I was like miserable. And you could ask for bed rest, but it's like rare that they'll give it to you. You know, you have to like say you're like actually sick or something. But yeah, at the 6-week mark, I started to feel better than I have in years. It was just mind-blowing, mind-shattering just how good I felt, you know. I was definitely on that pink cloud that they talk about, but since I'm on the Wellbutrin, it seems like this pink cloud has been just going just indefinitely. And I intend to get off of the Wellbutrin, but I think it may be a little bit too soon right now. I'm just really enjoying myself. But to all the people that are scared to go through this withdrawal, if you know it's time, it's time. You need to do it, because it just takes so many years off of our lives, and we'll never get these years back, you know? I wasted 23 years of my life doing heroin, and the last bit of it was Suboxone, and I will tell you, the Suboxone was more miserable than being a heroin addict, because at least when I was on heroin, when I was high, I was happy, you know? But on Suboxone, it was just total numbness the whole time. And yeah, you know, when I would first take it in the morning with an energy drink, I'd have that little hour or two of euphoria. But Suboxone it brought me to my knees more than any drug, because I just felt trapped on it. I felt stuck. I felt like it was like a fool's errand trying to get off of this stuff, you know? It's not really likely that a lot of people will even try to do this, because they hear all these horror stories online. And you know, yeah, it's true, it's miserable. It is miserable getting off of this stuff. But if you want your life back, you'll do whatever it takes. And if you know it's time, you know it's time. You feel it in your heart. You just need the help. You need the meds. I don't care what anybody says. In order to get off of this stuff, you definitely need comfort meds, like the Seroquel, the gabapentin, and the Wellbutrin, because the Wellbutrin helps during the pause. Because in my experience, every time I went back to any opiate, it was because I was going through post-acute withdrawal, and I didn't really know what that was. But, you know, now that I'm more educated, I understand why I kept going back to it, besides liking the high, you know? And with all this 7-0 stuff going around, it just makes it, I don't want to use it, but it's kind of, you know, when I see it at gas stations, I wish I could take it without consequences, but I don't want to be dope sick anymore. And I'm sure you guys can relate, like going through withdrawal, it's old. It's old. And especially, I'm 42 years old. I wasted 23 years of my life on and off opiates, withdrawal, not withdrawal, withdrawal, not withdrawal. It just takes a toll on your body. And I would say anybody that's younger than me, you better get this now, because you're in for a long, bumpy ride if you don't try to get help now. You don't have to identify with the 12 steps. You know, there's other ways to get clean. You know, I believe that our willpower I believe our own willpower can overcome this if we truly want it, you know. I don't know if I'm totally sold on the 12 steps. That's basically what they sell to us in this rehab, you know. Which, it's okay, you know, but it's just the H and I that comes in. It's just real redundant. It's like they say the same thing over and over and over. And I know that the meetings on the outside are definitely better, because there's more people speaking, and rather than just hearing one person speak the whole meeting. But yeah, that's all I really have to say today. I just want to encourage you guys that you can do this. And especially if you're doing it at home, you could smoke weed, which really helps me. You know, that's one thing that I wish I could have done during the withdrawal, but, you know, I had no other options left. Being homeless on the streets of Austin is miserable. Holy crap, it's miserable. I was sleeping under bridges, on concrete, ants biting me, and then walking around in the extreme heat, you know, with all of my stuff. Like, you know, it was heavy. I was heavy. It was just, oh my God, it was miserable. You know, there was some parts of it that were actually kind of fun when I was taking the kratom. At nighttime, it gets really nice in Austin, like the breeze and all that stuff. It just felt nice. I was drinking nice ice cold water, and the kratom was putting me in a really good headspace. But I knew that it was just all artificial, but I still enjoyed it while it lasted, at least, you know. At least I wasn't taking the Suboxone before I went into rehab. The first time I was taking it before I went to rehab, but when I came back the second time, it was only kratom that I was taking for like a week, and then the same thing when I came back the third time. But if you guys want to get off of it, maybe use some kratom, you know, but I know that's a slippery slope, you know. Anyway, peace and love.